Hello everyone and welcome to Heathered Knits. I am your host Heather and I am coming to you this Friday, January 14th from my home in mid-Michigan where I live with my two children, Abby who is 16 and Philip who is 11. I want to welcome those of you who are joining me for the first time. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking me out. And to those of you who are returning, thank you so much for coming back and spending some time with me. I do really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to spend a little bit of time with me. So thank you so much for doing that. This is a podcast or a vlog or whatever I end up doing for the week, where I talk primarily about my knitting, but also a little bit about my life. I am a COVID long haul person, so that comes into play a little bit. I deal a lot with fatigue and shortness of breath and brain fog and joint pain and all of those fun things. So that is a little bit of what we do here. I do try to save the life stuff towards the end so that if you are only interested in knitting, which is completely fine, you can just listen to that and then be done. And if you want to stick around, that's fantastic. But if you don't, that's okay too. So one of the things that I just started this year is I did start a Patreon page. There will be a link to that below. Through the Patreon, it is giving you access to a Discord server, which is an opportunity to chat with me a little bit more directly and interact with one another in the community. There are a couple of you who have gone over there, so thank you so much for that. I appreciate that and getting to interact with you a little bit and getting to know you. Things that will be going on there, I am going to post weekly kind of my works in progress, so you'll get to see things in between videos, and I may develop that more in the future, but it also gives you a little bit more of a direct access and interaction with me through the Discord server. The reason that I am choosing to put the Discord behind the Patreon is simply to keep out random people who might come across it and be trolls. So I really just wanted it to be the community, the people who are actually involved and want to be there, and not just people who would randomly join a Discord server. Discord's pretty easy to set up and use. You can use it on your computer. There's an app for your phone. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple to use. So if you are interested in that, please by all means click on the Patreon. Right now I only have one tier and it is just $1 because I wanted it to be as accessible to as many people as possible. If for some reason you are really interested in being a part of the Discord server and that's beyond your capability, which I completely understand, please do let me know. I want it to be accessible to people. I just don't want random people coming in and, disrupting the atmosphere. So that is that. Now, knitting. I did finish Philip's Sockhead hat. I do not have it here with me because he's wearing it, but I did finish that. I will insert a picture of him wearing it. He's very happy with it. He was so thrilled when I finished the hat and was able to give it to him. The yarn that I used, it was from Molly of a Homespun House. It was the 2018 Return to Hogwarts colorway, which has been sitting in my stash for a long time. So it was good to finally use up a lot of that skein. There is still some of it left, but I was able to use up a good chunk of it for him for the hat, and he really likes it and he's really pleased. So I am glad of that too. After I finished the hat, I cast on a pair of vanilla socks just to have some, portable vanilla knitting because you always need that. And so the yarn that I used to cast this on was yarn that Phil also kind of liked when he was looking at yarn that he wanted me to knit his hat out of. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll knit him a pair of socks out of this. And the yarn is from Drops Fable. The colorway is just a number. It's 162. And it's a self-striping yarn. And what I decided to do, because he's an 11-year-old boy and he's growing, I decided that I'm going to knit tube socks and not put a heel in these, because if I knit them as tube socks, then they will kind of grow with him. So I'm going to knit them really long and give a lot of room for them to grow. So here is where I am so far. I'm not sure how long. I think what I want to do is, because I have two 50-gram balls, so I think I just want to knit as much of that as possible into the ball of yarn. His feet aren't like super big at the moment, but he's definitely growing, and he hasn't had his like adolescent growth spurt at all. It's definitely pending, and the way the kid eats sometimes, I don't understand how it hasn't happened. But I know that probably within the next year or two, we'll be generous and say 2. He's just gonna like sprout up and become a super skinny beanpole, because that's probably what's gonna happen. So those are for him, and you know, there's no big rush on getting them done. I'm just working on them, and then when I'm done, like, I'll stick them in a sock drawer or something. So I've been working on that, but I also cast on something for myself. One of the things that I'm really aiming to do this year is knit a lot from stash. I don't want to add a lot to my stash, so I don't want to buy a lot of yarn. I am giving myself some room to, if there is a sweater that I find that I really would like to knit, to potentially purchase like a sweater's quantity worth of yarn. And I'm also probably going to allow myself to purchase an advent calendar a little bit later in the year when we get around to that, because I really do enjoy having advent knitting, and that's just become kind of part of my holiday tradition, and it's something that I'd like to keep with. So those are a couple of the things that I'm allowing myself a little bit of leeway to do. So Legacy Fiber Arts just came out with their Valentine's collection, and I did grab a pack of their mini skeins, because if you watched my last episode, I did finish my cozy memory blanket, and I would like to start another blanket, but I want it to be a little bit more organized. The other one was really random in my color choices, and I think I want to put a little bit more thought process into it. So I was thinking, well, I could accumulate some mini skeins that I can put into that. But I haven't showed you my next project. Sorry, I'm getting on to things that are like coming in the future and not talking about what I'm currently knitting on. So I cast on the Gardengate by Jennifer Steingass, who is also Knit Love Wool. And it's a yoked colorwork sweater. I'll show you the colors first that I'm using. So the main color is going to be this. It's called Pearlescent, and it's Knit Picks Stroll Tonal. Well, this is going to be knit out of Knit Picks yarn. Knit Picks is just a nice, affordable option for sweaters quantities. I know sometimes hand-dyed yarn can get really pricey, especially for sweaters. So I'm using some Knit Picks. And then the contrast color is this, which is Duchess Heather, and this is also Stroll yarn. It's just like a nice rich purple. And so I'm going to show you my progress. So I'm about halfway through the color work portion. I'm really enjoying it. I really enjoy knitting color work. It makes me be engaged and focused, but it's not necessarily like super challenging for me. You know, it's not necessarily like a heavily laced thing, and it's really easy to read your knitting, obviously, because you've got different colors, and so I've just really been enjoying it. That being said, once I am done with the color work part, I'm probably really going to enjoy just the tons of stockinette around and around to finish out the body. There is color work on the bottom of the sleeves, so once I get towards the end of the sleeves, there will be more color work to do, so I won't be completely done with it, which I think is nice, because you get through the bulk of the color work, and then you do a bunch of stockinette, and then when it's time and you feel like you might be ready for a little bit more again, there's a little bit on the sleeves. So I'm really enjoying it. Very, very enjoyable knit. She does a really nice job writing her patterns. And she has just some absolutely stunningly beautiful colorwork sweaters. So if you are interested in like looking for a colorwork sweater that you might want to knit, go check out her Ravelry page, because there's just some really beautiful, really breathtaking patterns there. So highly recommend. That is where I am at with my knitting. Like I said, I mentioned a little bit about the blanket that I'm thinking about knitting, and I haven't started that or anything like that, and I probably won't for a little bit, just because I'm enjoying not having that, you know, forever project on my needles at the moment. So I might finish the sweater and then like look into like getting that started, and I'll talk about that a little bit more once I get closer to time where I might actually want to get that started and get that going. So that's it for the knitting. If that's all you're interested in, that's completely fine. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to stick around for a few more minutes while I touch on kind of what's been going on with us, please feel free to do so. So as far as life stuff goes, the last couple of weeks have been a little challenging. We've been sick. If you watched the last episode, you'll know that we got exposed to COVID, and then Abby fell sick. Her COVID test was negative, but I don't know, I felt a little skeptical about that. And then I got sick. And so the first part of this week, I was feeling very poorly. I am feeling better now. I still do not feel super great, so I'm trying to like not overdo it. I'm still very, very fatigued, like more fatigued than usual. Still coughing a little bit. You might be able to hear my voice is a little bit off. So I really did not feel well for the first part of the week. We kept Philip at his dad's for a couple of days. I got tested for COVID. My test came back negative, but they're like, oh, you still have to quarantine. Because I also can't taste anything, which is why I'm like, I don't know. I can smell, but I can't really taste. Yesterday, I was starting to get a little bit of a vague flavor back. Not a super strong flavor. But so I haven't really been able to taste anything. I felt really crummy. Phil, like we kept him away for a couple of days. Then he came back, and I just wore a mask in the house around the kids. Yesterday, I finally started to feel better, and so I haven't been wearing a mask around the kids anymore because I'm feeling better and I feel like I'm coming out of it. We really wanted to keep Philip healthy because he so far has not fallen ill. Fingers crossed that he doesn't. But it's been a rough couple of weeks. You know, the kids were supposed to go back to school. A lot of kids aren't at school because the Omicron variant is starting to go around and things are just really kind of ramping up, and there's a lot of cases. And I'm so thankful for the mask mandate at my kids' school, because I really think that that's kept so many kids healthy. Like, everybody got sick over Christmas break. That's kind of how it went. It wasn't an outbreak affiliated with the school. It's just been everybody got sick at Christmas, which sounds like it's the case across the country. With that being said, we're kind of coming out of it now. And like I said, I'm just taking it kind of easy. And Abby's been feeling not very well either this week. And yeah, it's been a tough couple of weeks. Philip had a band concert last night. I will not insert footage of it for you. I will spare you the beginning band concert. It was fine. They did a good job. Phil was really excited about it. But you know, it's 6th and 7th graders who have never played instruments before. So it was that. But it was fun. He had a really good time. It wasn't completely awful. And so that's really what we've been up to. It has not been a lot just because nobody has been feeling well and we've all just really felt crummy. So hopefully we're going to turn the corner here pretty soon. And the weather is never helpful in Michigan in January in any of the winter. So, but we're okay. And I think that's it because my voice is starting to feel froggy and my throat is starting to get a little bit sore. So I'm going to stop talking. Thank you guys for checking me out. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. If you are interested, head on over to the Patreon and come hang out with us in Discord. And I will talk to you all in a couple of weeks. Bye.